CEPR has created this year 2 new awards. And we actually, since 2 is not enough, are going to award 3. The idea is that we celebrate and we award, thank you, yes, just leave it there. And we award something that is usually does not get enough recognition. We have many, many awards for research. I mean, starting with the Nobel Prize and then, all the way to some, smaller prizes that are given to the best paper and to the youngest economist with the best paper, etc. As far as we know, there are no awards for people who give services to the profession, for those who create public goods for the profession, for the entrepreneurial academics who disseminate, and there are no awards, as far as we know, for the kind of academics to give services in the realm of policy making. But of course, all of those are very key to CEPR and are very much part of our DNA of CEPR. So the first award that I want to talk about is the award for the Policymaker of the Year, the CEPR Service in Policymaking. And the recipient of the award does not know that he is the recipient of the award, but by now he may be suspecting. It is also our keynote speaker, who actually agreed to be our keynote speaker before coming, Phil Lane. We thank you very much. Phil, if you stay here, there are many things that you know about Phil, and they include the fact that he has been very influential in European central banks. He has been the governor of the Irish Central Bank from 2015 on notice, 2015, Euro crisis, and then it stops. Then he joined the European Central Bank Executive Board in 2019, also noticed the date, because afterwards, he definitely had his hands full of crisis management. There are also things that you don't know about him. Probably you don't know because I didn't know. I had our staff look into your service in terms of activity in terms of CEPR. Well, Phil has been a CEPR fellow since 1997. I didn't say 1897, it's not that long ago. But it is a very long time. He was a past program director, like Thomas Piketty. He wrote 35 discussion papers, and he has numerous contributions to CEPR publications, including Geneva Reports, Policy Insights, Economic Policy Special Editions, Vox books. It is a very, very long list. I want to highlight one of your last columns. In fact, it was the last column on Vox EU, because after 2018, then joining the European Central Bank, he has not been an active Vox EU blogger or column contributor. The last one was on the feasibility of sovereign bond-backed securities in the euro area. And that is, sort of the culmination of a whole series of efforts and of discussions on how to create a safe asset for the euro area, or more broadly, how to reform the euro area architecture. So Phil has been, also in this space, an extremely influential and important contributor to building the euro area. And now he has his hands full of managing it. So we are very happy to award this first, and this will be an annual award in service from policymaking for outstanding impact in European monetary policy to Philip Lane. Thank you very much, Phil.
Will this work? So Beatrice was not joking. I had no idea about this. So I'm very pleased. It's very rare to be surprised in this way, but it's a very pleasant surprise. Maybe I'll just make one point about the role of the CEPR for me. Because I came back from New York in '97. I came back to Ireland. Trinity College Dublin is a very good university, but it's not exactly the centre of European economics. So for Ireland, being a little bit remote, the opportunity for the CEPR to be at home really made, to me, I think, it made the difference between being in Trinity versus being in London or somewhere else much smaller than otherwise. So it's really, for everyone it's a benefit, but I think it's especially a benefit for those working in smaller countries that are less in the mainstream. So many people here today I worked with during those years, and even in the first few years, we set up a research network funded by the Commission based in international macro. So several people here were very involved with me in that. And that was so helpful to build my career. So for academically, in those years, it's so important. And I can tell you from where we are now, where I am now, one of my bookmarked things on my phone is Vox EU. So I do look every day. It's a great public service to have Vox EU as one of the bridges between academia and research. And the video you had earlier on, I think got it right. It really is a two-way street between academia and policymakers. So it's great to see so many people here who are so influential in helping me in my career over those years. And then maybe going back to, especially at the start, especially in those early years, and that's, I know Essen was here at the Banque de France the last couple of days. I was talking to Hélène Ray just before this about the value of SM, especially to get to know the younger researchers and so on. And so today I see many seasoned colleagues, but taking the CEPR more generally, that mix of the dynamism of new researchers and then exploiting, if you like, the experience of older researchers is a great combination. So thank you again. Thank you.
Thank you. Now you were going to give a keynote.
Well, to be honest, famously for ECB protocols, I can't start at 5:30.
Okay.
Because that's the listed time, and there's certain protocols about that.
In that case,
so you'll have to find something else for 15 minutes.
No problem. We can, of course, continue watching the movie. I can tell you it's another two hours at least. Or we can do the second surprise, which is, in fact, even surprising to the jury, because we actually decided that for this year, and exceptionally, we would do something which is, in this year, really exceptional. As you all know, unfortunately, we are in a situation where since the 24th of February, with the Russian invasion of the Ukraine, a very close-by country is under great distress. And not only the Ukraine, but also Europe and the world has been extremely affected and will be affected for a long time. The question is, or was for us all, how do we deal with this? How can we help? And similarly as in the COVID crisis, and I have this vivid memory still, we all remember all of a sudden finding ourselves at home and wondering what the world had come to. And at the time, the CEPR network really rose to the occasion in an incredible fashion. So calling for contributions on how to help policymakers deal with COVID, and in particular, Charles Wiplosch's selfless dedication to bringing COVID economics into the form of a journal and bringing it out more or less almost on a weekly basis, or sometimes several issues a week, was an incredible experience. We are and I got really emotional right now. We are in a crazy situation again, and the fact that it's already lasted for a few months hasn't made it better. And we, again, as a network, we're wondering, or I was wondering, how can we as a network help? We came up with two responses. On the one hand side, we created a dedicated page on Vox EU, where contributions about the Ukraine war and its consequences, so consequences of the war, can be submitted and reflected on. So there is some contribution from, and basically I'm saying some, almost daily there are new columns being published on the consequences of the war. But more importantly, the idea was floated quite early on. What we really need to start to be thinking about is how to reconstruct, rebuilding the Ukraine. And so the question was, who can lead that? And I gave, asked a few people, and everybody said there is one person that can lead that, and that's Yuriy Gorodnichenko, who is fortunately with us here. Thank you very much for that. But even more fortunately, I gave him a call. I said, would you be willing to lead a group to write a Marshall Plan for the Ukraine? And he said, yes. And I said, wow, that was fast, wonderful. And then I asked, well, by when? And usually when you ask people that, they say, well, summer. He said, how about next week? And so, in fact, this booklet that we have distributed, and this is one of the few things that we have printed, this blueprint for the reconstruction of the Ukraine, was actually written in a very, very short time under the intense penmanship and leadership of Yuriy. So it is been, and Tessa said this the other day, probably in terms of impact and reception and media interest, one of the greatest publications of CEPR. It continues to create interest and it continues to be read, which is why we in fact have printed it for you to have in your hands too. And we also created something new. It's the number one of what we hope will be a series that we do not have too many entries in. It's Rapid Response Economics, number one. And therefore, we thought it would also be appropriate to create an award, which rewards rapid response to a policy issue. Yuriy, can you please join?
That is a very pleasant surprise.